that Santos sponsored this space.
And how these agriculture systems can leave a legacy for the future of humanity in terms of our food production. We're going to follow on with the panel and involve a few other speakers, but initially I'd just like to introduce Alejandro, who's going to give us a brief presentation around the food systems that he's involved with back home. Alejandro is a native of Mexico and holds a Bachelor of Science in Agronomy and a Master's in Tropical Agroforestry. He's worked for various organisations at home and abroad on issues relating to environmental protection and food and farming. He draws on personal experiences as a small producer of various crops and cattle in his hometown. He currently lives in an eco-community in Cloud Forest with his wife and son, where they grow coffee, fruit, staples, crops, vegetables and keep chickens. So thank you, and please welcome him.
Thank you for being here. I'm gonna share some of my life. I've been working with many communities around Mexico and other countries. It's very complex but also fulfilling. But I'm just gonna talk about things that are closer to my heart, which is where I was born. My parents' place, a farm. And maybe I can talk a little bit about my own farm where I live now, just to get things going and maybe discuss a few issues. Well, I'm going to talk about my parents' place in the southern part of Mexico, along the Pacific Ocean, which is a lowland, dry, tropical forest. They grew sugarcane for 10 years, and I kind of took over the farm when I came out of the school with lots of information, but almost no experience. So I started to do things on the land, and the first thing I did is get cattle in the land, because it was farmed heavily monocrop sugarcane for 10 years. And you know that sugarcane is the most efficient crop in converting sunlight into sugar. But that's at a cost, and that means very depleted soils, and also compacted because of the machinery that is used there. So I didn't and my father wanted to keep growing other things. I said, no, stop, that soil won't work for at least the next 10 years. Let me just try to regenerate. And then that I learned about a more regenerative agriculture, which then was called agroecology. So I bought some cattle, and I said, okay, the cattle will eat sugarcane, which they did for 2 years, and then I suddenly noticed that the cattle would also browse trees, native trees around the farm on the edges, and bring the seeds into the middle. And wow, there were lots of trees, pioneer trees, legume trees growing really fast. So I said, wow, it's amazing. So I started to look more into it, and it had a name, Agroforestry, or silvopastoral, that's we call. So I studied more of that, and I continued to try to follow follow nature instead of fighting it, which is the other way my neighbors were doing. So that's how I ended up trying some managing the land, basically, more or less, with cattle and without cattle, on and off. This is, sorry, I'm going to just show you some pictures. This is the god of the land, which rules everything that we can see, we can touch, because we have an ancient tradition of. I come from the Zapotec culture, which is a culture that develops in southern Mexico, in Oaxaca, for many years, thousands. And that's where the corn, pumpkins, and beans were domesticated by my ancestors. So this is the god of the land, of the earth. And the counterpart is the god of the wind. So both balance the whole thing, the whole budget. That was the land when I took it over. Well, not later, after the cattle had eaten all the sugar cane, my neighbors were growing corn, maize, also just monocrop. And so I saw that some trees were coming up, acacia trees. So I just let it grow instead of buying herbicides or glyphosate or things like that. I have this picture because we live close to the ocean. So one of my worries was to pollute the soil and the water that would end up in the lagoons. And the people who live off fishing, they would just starve. So I also wanted to look after my neighbors. So that was my decisions were based on that. I mean, also I like fish a lot. Swim. So our diet based on fish. So some of the fishing families sell their fish there in the market, in the town. I also worry about wood, about energy. So I wanted to grow trees for the wood because the fish and the food tastes much nicer, much better if it's cooked with wood. Like I knew. So I wanted to keep that. So we use wood either as charcoal. This is a traditional way of making charcoal. And also directly on the earth oven. That's my dad's, he cooks outside on the earth oven. He's not allowed in the kitchen. So he cooks delicious food there. So wood was very important. Also keep the nature going, and not only the things that we buy, that we buy and sell, or things that we eat, but also like this native palm, Kohune palm. It's very important for our culture because we take that flower, the whole spade of that flower of the palm is a big tall palm. During Easter we take these flowers, they are very perfumed, to the graveyards to honor our ancestors. So that part is very important. The living, we feed the living and we also the dead. And so that what I start to do is just let everything grow, and also while everything was coming back, the what's called secondary forest was coming back. I tried to grow trees like a food forest in the middle of the land, just using the well. There was an old well there. Just managed to grow a food forest around that well. So there you can see some coconuts, tamarins. The tamarins are to protect the plums. The hot plums from the strong wind. So that's the well. And with that we could irrigate some of the fruit trees but also keeping the cattle. The cattle will eat, for instance, this fruit and spread it out all over. And while hiding in the shade during the day, because it's very hot, they would also seed a lot of plants along the fence. So I would have a natural live fence without spending any money. Because they spend 2 or 3 hours there just when the middle of the day when it's really hot. The sheep, I did keep sheep as well. They would also eat lots of trees, like that one. It's just an earpod tree, and I just collect them from the ground and put them in the seedlings into the bags and plant them wherever I wanted. And that's how it looks, that bit of a food forest. And I fence off the cattle from the food forest.
How long after was that?
Sorry?
How long did it take to get that to that point?
30 years, something like that. I mean, there were some trees there before, like next to the well, there was a huge fig tree. Actually, the fig tree will tell you that there is water. It's like indicator. So that my guess is the previous owner made a well there because of the fig tree. And also, I like birds, so the birds came when everything was going back. So we have lots of bird life and other kind of wildlife. So that's it. I wasn't expecting to give a presentation, so I picked some pictures, and that's the place where I'm trying to manage it with very little inputs, with very little time as well, because I live somewhere else on the other coast, on the Atlantic coast, where I live in the mountains. I grow coffee there. Have a small 1 hectare plot, and I've done that as design with permaculture principles. And it's easier to grow things there because it's a mild weather. It's never too hot, never too cold. Rains almost all year. It's perfect for agroforestry systems as well. And there, as was mentioned before, 10 families ended up living in the same place. So we share a lot. We are like an intentional community. It's called Las Cañadas. You can look it up, Las Cañadas, and it's a farm. It's a big farm, and that runs permaculture and agroecology courses. It's been doing that for 20 years, and several families bought land around that farm. So we kind of created an intentional community. And grow our own food. We're off the grid. We have all composting toilets, and you know that. and we have a community school for kids. We barter. We're helping to set up a farmers market in the town nearby. And my wife and I, we were both involved as volunteers in a project to plant trees, mold trees, to convince the cattle ranchers to leave aside few acres to keep trees, and a lot of conservation projects. So that's basically my life and lately. At the personal level, as as an agronomist or consultant, I also work with indigenous communities all over Mexico, coffee co-ops, fishing villages, women's group that want to transform their lives by growing food and become less dependent, or keeping livestock, whatever they feel like it. I help them to set off that goal, I used to work for a big non-profit, so that was my work as well. And I love it, and I love it here because this makes me feel like I'm not alone. Great, thank you.